And now I could start applying these colors, starting with green up here like this. And then remember to use the adjacent colors in addition to the main color that you're using. So my main color here is green, but I'm also adding blue green and yellow green, the adjacents to green, so that I have 3 colors that are part of the green color family. So I'll add the blue green and the yellow green as well. Now if I want to add a 4th color, it would be a color that is of a different temperature. It would be a color from this side of the color wheel where the warmer colors are, so that I introduce warm colors within cool colors. So there's this mixture of warm and cool colors that really adds vibrancy and interest to the color mixtures. And I could add a near complement or a complement to the green. I'm going to add a near complement, which is the red-violet to green. And this should give me some nice variations of different intensities of color, different grade colors. And now I'll mix them together or intermingle them like this. Too bad I can't do this like I do it when I use a brush and paint. Maybe Photoshop will have something like that available in the future. Now, if you want to mingle colors similar to the way you would when you use paint and a brush, then you can do that in the software called Painter. So maybe you have Painter. If you do, check it out. See if you can mingle the colors. Now you see this interesting variety of different colors that I've created by mingling them together, and this creates what is also called broken color. You see different colors and different degrees of intensity of color, some more muted, others less muted, a nice variety. If I wanted to give this a little bit of texture, I could go to Filter and down to Artistic, and then where it says Rough Pastels, to give it a slight roughness or texture so that it doesn't look too smooth, something like that. You see a little bit of roughness was added. Now if I want to add brighter color, I'll just increase the intensity of these colors on the color wheel by going to Hue Saturation and increasing the saturation like this. And now I can select colors from the color wheel. Of course, I'm using the color wheel here to show you how the color wheel is used. You can, of course, use the color picker to select your colors. So I'm going to select red-orange and add that to the ground area. And then the adjacent colors, which are, of course, orange and red. So I'll add some orange here and some red. Now, if I want to add some cool color within this warm color, which is always a good idea to get that excitement of color temperatures, different color temperatures into your color mixtures, add a cool color within the warm mixture, or if it's a cool mixture, add warm color into the cool mixture. So since this is a warm mixture, I'm going to add a cool color. Now it can be the complement to red-orange or the near complement. And I think I'll use the near complement, which is green or blue. And I think I'll use blue. Add that like this. And now mix it together with the smudge tool. And I'll go to Filter, down to Artistic and Rough Pastels to give it a bit of a rough texture, just a little bit. Now if it's too bright, I can always add more of the near complement, which is blue, and then mingle that in with the color. See how the intensity is reduced when I do that, but yet I still have different colors in there, color variety. Different degrees of intensity. Now I've increased the appearance of texture. You can see that it looks even more rough here and more rough here, and I did that by just repeatedly going to the filter menu and down to where it says rough pastels, or just hitting Command F if you're working with a Mac repeatedly will increase the roughness of the texture. Now if you are at the point where you can start adding additional colors over the colors that are already there, like this for example, what I'm going to do now is just add some color with the brush, and that helps to break up the smoothness even more by just adding brush strokes like this. You see? And I can do the same up here. Select color right from there and then just add it like this and have these brush strokes show up somewhat. So it's a combination of the smoothness resulting from the intermingling plus the brush strokes that you add, and of course you can add all sorts of different brush strokes, picking up color from the colors that have been mingled. So by picking up those colors, you're getting that variety of color that you established through mingling. You see how effective this can be. Now, I'm using a round brush, but you can use a different brush. Experiment. Try different brushes. And now I'm going to add color to the sky, and it's going to be these three colors. Always select a main color, and then you have the secondary colors to that main color. So you have a dominant color, and then you have subdominant colors. And those subdominant colors are the colors that appear within the mingled mixture, and they are the adjacent colors to the main color. So this is my main color, the yellow-green, and then these are my secondary colors, my subordinate colors to the dominant color. So it's dominant color and then subordinate colors, which are the adjacent colors. And I'll add the yellow-green, but I'm going to add some white, which makes it more of a tint of yellow-green, like that. And I'll add it to the sky. And it's a good idea to add more of the main color than the subordinate colors, so that the main color becomes dominant in the mixture. And now I'll add some yellow and some green, which I have to raise in value to something like this. And then I could add a complementary or a near complementary to my main color. So the complementary would be red-violet because it's directly opposite yellow-green. And I'll make a tint of that red-violet, something like this, gray it somewhat, and add a few spots like that. And then I'll mix it together and see what I get. Mingling the colors. And you see a nice variety there of color. Greens, yellow greens. And if it's too intense in color or too saturated, you can always go to Image, down to Adjustments, Hue Saturation, then lower the saturation, like this. Every color on the color wheel has its complement, as I pointed out to you, and the complements are diametrically opposite each other on the color wheel, as I mentioned. Now, you can also use the three color combinations where you don't just have a family of colors like these, but rather you use a main color with two near complements, which would in this case be red-orange and red-violet. So instead of using just one near complement in the mixture, you're using two. And I'll add those colors over here, like this, and then the red-violet near complement, as well as the red-orange. And then I'll just mingle them together like this. And you can see the color looks rather exciting because of these warm and cool color contrasts, as well as different intensities of color that have been created through this mingling or interweaving of colors. When using a color with both of these near complements, the balance of color qualities is equivalent to the balance of the color and its complement. And that's because it consists of the color and the two hues which, when mixed together, produce its complement. Here's yet another way through which you can get exciting looking color into your paintings. When you're using the color family, as I pointed out to you earlier, such as these colors, for example, where you have the main color and then you have the adjacents, you also should introduce a cool color so that there is a balance of color within your painting, and that balance is achieved by going to the opposite side of the color wheel where the cooler colors are if you're using warm colors, and introduce a near complement or a complement, such as in this case I'm selecting blue, the complement of orange, which is my main color here. And this introduces cool color into the warm color, and if you have cool colors as your dominant colors, then introduce a warm color so that you have this balance of warm and cool that adds excitement to the color and gives some relief from all of the warm color in your painting if you have a lot of warm color. Or if you have a lot of cool color, you need to give that cool color some relief by introducing some warm color. So go to the opposite side of the color wheel and select a complementary or a near complementary to introduce into the mixture. You also need the introduction of a complement or near complement hues into the mingling of the colors to reduce their intensity, so that some are more muted than others, so you get this variety of different intensities of color. Otherwise, if you don't introduce a complement or near complement, then the colors are going to remain rather brilliant. There aren't any colors then that would reduce their intensity. So you need this balance of brighter and duller colors, which you get when you introduce opposing colors, such as complements or near complements, into the mixture. So I'm going to pick up the orange color from the color wheel and add that over here, and then the red-orange, and then the yellow-orange, and also the blue, the complement to orange, like this, and then I'll mix it together using the smudge tool, mingling them together like this. And now you see a variety of colors and different intensities of color as well. Now remember, you can then paint over this mixture, adding some brush strokes like this, which will relieve some of the smoothness that you may not want. Like this, adding those different colors, and if you want one color that's more pure, more brilliant, then you can add one that isn't mixed in with the blue, for example, that would reduce its intensity. So this sort of thing you can do. And I'm going to soften my brush. You see, things like this, which add a lot of interest, a lot of variety. Just look at the variety here of color. Really nice. And now I'm adding a brighter yellow-orange here, painting it in. While the blue here is the complement to the orange, it is the near complement to the yellow-orange and the red-orange. Therefore, when the blue is mixed with those colors, they are not neutralized to the extent that orange is. And what you get are more softened colors, more grayed colors, but not, as I mentioned, to the extent that you get with the mixture of orange and its complement blue. So you get all of this variety, which results in something like this that looks really interesting. And if you want to reduce the intensity of the color, no problem. You just go to hue saturation, and you can reduce the intensity like that. Or you can start out with lower intensity colors by going to the color picker and then selecting lower intensity colors and then mingling them together, creating this broken color effect or appearance. I'm going to select red and then its neighbors or adjacents, red, orange, and red, violet. And then I'll use green here in addition to those colors, which is the complementary to red. And I'll pick up those colors and then add them here to my spaceship. And now I'll mix them together, mingle them, and they're being reduced in intensity because I have that complementary color to red, which when mixed with those colors reduce their intensity. And I get varying degrees of intensity of colors. And now I can go in there and start painting over it with this nice variety of color that I have. So I'm painting over it now. Then I could add, let's say, a lighter part, that part that is being struck by the light. And I'm not going to show you how I paint the whole thing here. It would just take too long. Just trying to show you how you can get interesting color variety easily and quickly into your paintings with these methods that I've been showing you. So I'm adding some more things here, like this, some highlights, warmer color on the side that is receiving more of the light. So I could go on and on with this. But I think you now understand how you can get really interesting color variety into a painting. Now I'm going to pick up the red-orange from the color wheel, apply that on this machine that figure is looking at, as well as some red, and then the red-violet, a few spots of that here and there, and then I'll mingle the colors together. But I also need to add some green, complementary color to the red. And now when I mingle these colors, they'll be reduced in their saturation somewhat. And I get this lively mix of different colors. Then I can go in there with my brush and add additional colors and make all sorts of modifications. So if there's a little too much red-violet, I just go over that red-violet with red-orange or red. If I want to darken something like the green in back of the spacecraft, I could go to Adjustments and to curves and then darken everything like this. Let's say I want to change all of the colors. Well, all I do is go to Adjustments, down to Color Balance, and here I can move these sliders and the color is going to change. But I still will have varieties of colors due to all those different colors that showed up in the mingling of the colors. I'll still get variety of colors. Something like this, it creates a more mysterious mood. The figure is too close to the center. When you have something like this, where it's not in the center, but it's almost in the center, but not quite, that kind of positioning of an important element within the composition is disturbing to the viewer. So it's neither here nor there. To improve the composition, the figure needs to be moved over toward the right more, away from the near center positioning of it. Before I make that change, I'm going to make a color change. Instead of having these colors on this machine here, I'm going to eliminate those colors and have this kind of color instead. These blues. This makes for a more mysterious looking mood. And then I'll add some brighter color on the figure. But now I'm going to make that change by moving the figure over toward the right. Now, as you can see, I moved the figure over toward the right more to get it away from being too close to the center. And I think you can see that this position is much more pleasing than the previous one. And I also enlarged the spaceship to make it more dominant in size. Dominance is another important principle of design that you learned about from my videos, or maybe you learned about the importance of dominance from some other source. As long as you know how to use dominance in your paintings, in your compositions, you're going to be able to create some really fantastic work. That's how important dominance is. Dominance also enables you to achieve unity. Very important principle. It's considered actually the most important principle of all, the most important design principle of all. Now, what I'm going to do is add a color to the figure. Now you see, once you have this kind of color mingling where you get all these different colors, you can pick up those colors like I'm doing here and then add them to other parts of your forms or even other parts of the picture, and you can easily then get a variety of different colors this way quickly. So I could pick up that orange color from the spaceship and apply it to the figure, and then a little bit of red and a little bit of yellow orange, and I now have color variety on this figure, and I was able to get that variety rather quickly by just picking up these different colors from the spaceship. I did some more work on this figure, adding some little spots of white that you see here and there, and they help to add some sparkle to the color painting. When you have these little spots of white like this, they add interest and help to draw the eye to the center of interest. If you place them on the center of interest like I have, the figure is the center of interest in this little rough color sketch. When you have larger areas of white like that, they really attract a lot of attention. So placing larger amounts of white on the center of interest will definitely draw the eye of the viewer to the center of interest. But even smaller spots like this that help to add sparkle will help to draw the eye to the center of interest. I'm going to add some yellow orange up here on this machine, and that will draw the eye up there. So the figure is looking in that direction. You'll notice that at this stage I'm using my brush. I'm no longer mingling colors. I'm making all sorts of refinements and picking up the colors that are already there to give me the kind of color variety that makes for an interesting color painting. And I feel that I need more of these reds and red violets over here on this side for better balance. If I have reds and red violets over here, I need to have them on this side as well to create a balance of hues. Don't have all of one color or several closely related colors all on one side without repeating them on the other side. It's going to be out of balance in terms of color if you do that. That's almost equivalent to placing all of your forms on one side of the picture with nothing on the right side, with no forms on the right side to balance those on the left side. I could go up here and add some dark values like this to give more depth. So there's a dark value further up front, which is that one, and then this dark value is a little bit further back because it's a lighter value, so it adds some depth and adds some tonal variation as well, so that I have a darker value and a lighter value. I'm going to add some dark spots here in the foreground right there, suggesting stones. And also some steps here. See, I'm painting right over all that color variety. This is the stage where you use your brush and paint right over what you established with all that color mingling. Now I could add some green reflected light into the spaceship, just a little bit like that. See, right there, here, here. And then I could start adding some details, but only after the large color shapes have been established. Only after the masses have been established, you begin to add details. Big forms and shapes first, and then later the details. I'm not going to carry this rough color sketch to completion. It would take too long. Now back here there's a city in ruins. There's no other life that can be seen, no birds, nothing, just this godlike computer suggesting that he or it is the source of destruction. And this figure is some kind of astronaut that has landed on this planet. So there's a story behind this picture. Always have some kind of story in mind for your picture. Otherwise, it doesn't really have any meaning. I added some additional color right here, and it's a violet color. Now, the reason why violet was chosen is because it contrasts strongly in terms of hue with the yellow-orange on the figure over here. If you look at the color wheel, you see that yellow-orange is here and violet is right there. So yellow-orange is a near complementary color to violet. Or you can say that violet is a near complementary to yellow-orange. Therefore, creating strong hue contrast and helping to draw the eye here to the figure. Going to add a red-violet, which is of a lighter value, so it's going to be somewhat of a tint of red-violet right here on the side of the figure that is receiving the light, like that, and a little bit darker red-violet was just added. So I have this nice contrast of hue here where the figure is, and then I think I might add some darker value to this part of the spaceship here, and that helps to add more depth because the darker values should be in the foreground while lighter ones further back. Darker value underneath the spacecraft. Also make the cast shadow a little darker, some dark spots in there to help create a more transparent looking cast shadow. And adding these stripes on the spacecraft, some details, and a few spots here and there. I'll add a little bit of atmospheric perspective like this. Just soften the distance somewhat, obscure it a little bit to add more depth, and so that those forms in the distance do not draw too much attention. Soft focus in the distance, sharp focus up front. That's the rule, and that's the way things appear in nature. I don't want too many details on the spacecraft, otherwise it's going to attract too much attention. And I think I need to make a change here, get rid of that window. And this way more attention is focused toward the front of the spacecraft where the figure is. And I can add a few details back here. Value adjustments need to be made, so I can darken the background a little bit more like this. Check my values, and here you can see the value pattern. The light sky is attracting too much attention, I think, so I'm going to darken it, see what that looks like, and turn it into black and white. Now it draws less attention. More attention is directed to the figure that has lighter values on it. However, I think the sky can be darkened even more. I'm still not losing the color variety that I established. I'm just darkening the sky. And you can see that more attention seems to be directed now toward the figure. And I think I might add a lighter value and a warmer color. Go back to the black and white, and I think I need to add a darker value to the spaceship so that it doesn't attract as much attention as the figure. Now you can see the lighter values are directed in this area here where the figure is. That's about right, except I can add, I think, a few more lighter values on the figure. Add some more yellow. Something like this, to draw even more attention to the figure. So most of the light is falling on the figure rather than on the spaceship. Adding that violet that leans a bit toward the red violet, warming it up, since this is the side that is receiving light. And it also adds interest because I have this sequence of red violet and violet, and even blue violet is in there as well. So it's like this on the color wheel. These colors, there's a sequence, and there's beauty in sequence, which I pointed out to you up here on the Barin color triangle, if you remember. When you follow straight lines, or even these lines here that are a little curved, you're following a sequence, and that sequence establishes a harmony and a beauty. There is beauty in sequence of color, from tint to tone to black, or white to tone to shade, or color to tone to gray. Since a lot of light is falling within this area here where the figure is, I'm going to add some lighter, warmer color right there, suggesting that that's where the light is hitting, falling on this area here. And I think I'll also add some brighter reddish or red-orange color where the light is falling around here as well. And then some cast shadow added like that. I'm going to continue working on this picture until the composition is the way I want it to be. However, I'm not going to show you the whole process because it just takes too long. And what I'm going to do is jump ahead and show you what the revised color sketch looks like.